And welcome back as we go ahead and now look at how to read our data from a binary file. Last time, of course, we looked at writing, so now let's look at how to pull that data back in. So reading in binary data, if we look at the object output stream class that we had previously, we can find that each output method has a corresponding input method in the object input stream. So for example, we write an integer to a file using writeInt of object output stream. Then you can read the integer back with the method readInt of object input stream. Similarly, if you write a number using a file using the method writeDouble, then you can read that number back with the method readDouble of object input stream, and so on and so forth for each of the corresponding types. So let's actually look at how to open a file when we look at binary input. The input stream for reading from a binary file's numbers.dat is open as follows. Object input stream is new object input stream, new file input stream, quote, numbers.dat. Again, very, very similar to what we saw when we did in output stream. The biggest differences here, of course, is we have the classes object input stream and file input stream instead of object output stream and object or file output stream. Now, when we open a binary file for reading, we have to kind of follow, of course, that certain format. We have object input stream name equals new object input stream, new file input stream, file name. The constructor for file input stream, of course, as we expect by now, is that it's probably going to throw some kind of IO exception, which is the file not found exception. You might be noticing a pattern here. Now, if the file input stream constructor succeeds, then the constructor for object input stream, of course, may throw a different type of IO exception. But ultimately, we're going to have the same kind of format. Object input stream input file equals new object input stream, new file input stream, some file.dat. And of course, once we have our file loaded in, we are free then to use the various methods to read from that file. So let's go ahead and talk about creating the stream. If we want to create a stream using a file name, we can just say new object input stream, new file input stream, file name. Because that's just the second half of our constructor here. Alternatively, you can use an object of the class file in place of file name as follows. New object input stream, new file input stream, file object. The constructor for file input stream may throw, of course, a file not found exception, which again is a type of IO exception. If the file input stream constructor succeeds, then of course the constructor may throw a different type of IO exception. Now, one of the things that we had talked about previously is having multiple types within the same type of binary file. So object input stream allows you to read input values of various types from the same file, whether they're integers, whether they're booleans, strings, etc. And you probably will have a combination of different things in there, such as integer values, double values, string values, etc. However, if the next data item in the file is not the type expected by that reading method, the result is likely to be a mess. So if your program writes an integer using writeInt, then any program that reads that integer should read it using readInt. If, however, let's say you instead use readLong or readDouble, the program is likely to misbehave. And one thing to kind of keep in note is that when we close the programs for a binary input stream, we're going to close it the same way that we close all our other IO streams. All right, and so let's go ahead and look at a actual demo of this. And so I brought in numbers.dat, which of course we wrote in our previous program here. And so I just copy and paste that in over so we can read that back in. And so what we're going to do is say, hey, here's our object input stream, and we're going to read in this file. So we're going to attempt to get two integers out of that file, and then we're going to print them back out and close that stream. So if we go ahead and run the program, it says cannot find files. So that means I might have to move this, for example. Let's see if we just have it in the wrong spot here. Drag that back up to top level. There we go. There we go. And so it says reading the file numbers.dat, numbers read from file. We get 0 and 1 and end of program. All right. And so having that in the wrong spot allowed us to test our catch here. We said file not found. It says cannot find it. So I simply just move that to the correct location. And now, of course, we are reading in 0 and 1. Now, remember, I still cannot read what is in this file. All right. It's still corrupted here where I can't actually read it. Because remember, it's encoded for binary. It's encoded in the way the computer interprets it. However, once I use this input stream, I could then take that data in. And if I wanted to, I could do something like read these numbers in and then write them to a text file. And I could open that text file and do it. Or I could have it here on the console. Both of those ways are perfectly acceptable ways for me to take that data and put it into a more readable form. However, again, even though numbers.dat is now quote unquote readable, it's not readable by us. All right, it's readable by the computer. That's an important distinction to keep in mind here, is that when we do our output streams, it's going to write out in a format for the computer, and our input stream is just going to read it in for the computer to be able to use. It's not a way that we are going to be able to interpret it. So if we want to know, for example, if our data in that file is correctly, we're going to have to use something such as here, where we take those input streams and read in those files in the way we expect them to be. And that, of course, can allow us to test that. Now, this is, of course, not perfect, but we're looking at this from a very simplistic approach right now, where we can kind of look and see, for example, we're reading in 2 numbers here. So nothing super complicated yet, but of course, we will eventually start looking at how we can make our binary files much more useful for us.